What's up everybody, welcome back to the channel. I finally got all the cooling pieces I need to finish the coolant system from my Honda J32 V6 swapped Porsche 944 race car. Here's a quick look at what I ordered. The first thing was this universal hose from Gates. You can find these online, but I actually found that getting them through O'Reilly was cheaper. It's a Gates 21794. It's just a 16-inch hose with a 1.5 inch end on both sides. I got 4 of those. Off of Amazon, I bought a silicone 45 degree 1.25 inch hose. I got a 1.5 inch inline thermostat housing, and this has a temperature, fitting place for it. I got a couple of adapters. This is a 1.5 to 1.25 inch adapter to get from the 45 degree hose to one of the 1.5 inch hoses. I finally got my J-pipe. This is the most crucial piece I was waiting for. This will be able to take the coolant from the engine and reverse the direction. Instead of going towards the back of the motor, now I can have it going up to the front. This is what I've been waiting for. Last but not least, obviously, got a bunch of hose clamps. I decided to go with T-clamps. They just look nicer. I just like the way they look better than the traditional ones, but any hose clamp will work. All right, the first thing I want to do is get the J-pipe installed. Now, this is the original water pipe that goes here in the valley of the intake manifold, and you can see it directs water all the way out to the back. There's a big water manifold there that we chucked in the garbage. The J-pipe will redirect the water to go out to the front. But obviously it's located under these fuel rails and these intake runners, so I need to go ahead and bolt these, and then I can get this guy bolted in. All right, so now that I've got the intake runners off, I can go ahead and insert the J-pipe here into the block. I put just the tiniest bit of grease on here so I don't tear that seal when I install it. Oh yeah, nice positive fit. Okay, so the first set of hoses I want to try and make is going to be this upper radiator hose. Since this goes closest to the radiator itself and the radiator support, the lower one is going to have to fit around it. So I'm going to go ahead and get this one done first. I know this is going to run like so across the front of the radiator. We'll have a thermostat housing about here, and then the other hose is going to go here. So you can already see we got to trim this one back quite a bit. This one's pretty close, only about 1 inch off, and then we'll have to cut some length out of here too to give the thermostat housing a place to live. Okay, so the first hose I'm going to try and make is going to be the lower hose up to the J-pipe, and that's going to take a series of 2 of these 90 degree hoses here. One will attach to the lower hose like so. There'll be a connection. It'll turn this direction, and then here you can see this is where our 45 will come in. So it's going to take some trimming, but yeah, that's pretty much it. All right, I've got my rubber coolant lines basically fit up. I just cut them to length. Again, these were just generic 90 degree hoses that I got from O'Reilly. They're all the same part. The only hose that I had to buy that was different than that was this 45 degree 1.25 inch hose. I use fittings I got off of Amazon. This is a 1.25 to a 1.5 inch fitting in between here, just aluminum cheap fittings. And then there's a 1.5 to a 1.5 to make this hose here. And then obviously I have to connect the Y pipe to the rubber hose here. And I'm gonna make a plate. I'll cover that in just a second. One thing I did not cover that I kind of wish I did is I made this mounting plate here, this mounting bracket to mount my inline thermostat housing. So I needed a thermostat for it anyways, and I figured there was a good place. This is how they did it on the 944 J-Swap car on their page. So just decided I'd copy it. But what I did is I made a cardboard template using a case of spicy water and traced it all out on this piece of scrap aluminum I found and bent it up to mount directly to the original hood mount bracket. So I'm gonna do something similar. I got these really cool clamps from the folks at 944 J-Swap, and I'm gonna use it to mount this Y fitting to the chassis. So I'm gonna go ahead and mock something up in cardboard, transfer it onto a piece of steel I bought, and then yeah, I'll get that mounted up, and then all the lines for the cooling are 100% done. I'm just gonna eyeball this really with this bend. Okay, so here's a kind of a final look at the mock-up piece here. This is going to bolt right to the inner fender well. This is going to be the plate for those two clamps to mount to here. This is going to be the return and the vertical surface for me to screw to the frame. If I decide I don't want to go into the frame, I can just lop this off and round these edges out. But yeah, I think it's going to be just fine. All right, so I've got my template piece. I'm just going to trace it on this piece of steel. And then after I cut it out, I'll smooth out the edges a little bit, make sure it's not too sharp. And then I have my fold lines here. I'll put those lines on here and then put it in the vise, use a hammer and crease it up, and it should be good to go. All right, I was trying to bring this bracket and curve it this way to then have a flange come down. But with my little tiny vise, I don't have enough clamp height to really like hammer it under. So I was just starting to bow this guy like that. I don't want to do that. This is honestly way too thick a steel anyways. So I'm actually just going to chop it, radius the corners real nice. I wanted to make this out of aluminum. I might still redo it anyway. So I'll just chop this off clean, smooth the edges out, and then I'll be able to bolt this thing in. So, oh well. Well, it's not pretty, but it should work. So now I just gotta go mark out where the holes are for the bracket to sit, and then I'll punch those through. Well, here we go. This is the finished bracket plate. This will hold the white pipe. I'm going to drill some holes here to bolt to the inner fender. I'm going to use nut and bolt, not rivets, because I want this removable so that I can get to these. And then I'll probably hit this with some black paint so you can't see all the ugly. And then I'll put it in the car. All right. Here's the rattle can paint job. Just, wow, ignore all of that. You know, that's just special effects. It's really nice and smooth. No, but honestly, I mean, this thing is largely going to be covered by hoses. So, you know, that big piece is going here. The two brackets going this way. The hoses are going that way. So hopefully you're just going to see it like that. But yeah, not bad. All right, next step, get this in the car. All right, so I've got one hole here. I'm utilizing the factory bolt hole, and I'm gonna punch two more here and put some nut and bolts. First, I need to find a little bolt for that. I feel like this is gonna be the most challenging part. Getting this to cooperate the way I want it to. See the 3 matches up with the 3 down here. All right, now that plate is all finished up, I've got the clamps all secured down. This is nice and firmly set. I can go ahead and put the NPT hose barb end in there, and then start putting clamps on all the coolant lines, and we're done. All right, so with the coolant system all done now, the only thing left is to get that intake manifold reassembled. I have a throttle body assembly to come up with here because I'll be moving the throttle body off of the front of the motor just down a little bit to get a little more clearance there. My throttle cable I'll be replacing, which I already have, and then getting the wiring and electronics done. Can't wait for that one. But yeah, some more good progress and just one more step to getting this thing back on the track.